Hi, guys. Welcome again to another episode of When the Scriptures Become Real. It's again a podcast where we learn, where we study, where we grow. We try to become the best versions of ourselves as we can as we continue to serve our Lord. Again, we're so thankful that you guys are here and you found the podcast. You can listen anywhere that you can find your podcast. We can also watch the video portion on YouTube and subscribe there. So we're thankful for the opportunity that you guys have to study with us. So this is one we've been waiting on for personally for about a week or so, just kind of holding this in for about a week. And Sam can attest to that too.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. But again, as you can tell, if you're watching the video portion, we've got Sam Lawrence back on with us. We're just thankful that he's here. And so, Sam, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself again, and then we'll get started with our podcast for today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm thankful to be here again. And so my name's Sam Lawrence. I am a member here at the South Huntington congregation in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. And Lord willing, we'll be moving up to Knoxville here in less than 2 weeks to start our actually classes start January 3rd, but we'll be attending, Lord willing, the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so, yeah, we've spent some late nights talking about this, some phone calls that we said, all right, 10, 15 minutes have gone 2 hours. And
Yeah,
so,
easily.
yeah, we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot
Yeah.
to talk about.
Yeah. So, again, I'm excited that Captain America, I mean Sam, Sam, is is back on with us. So
Oh,
we're thankful for that opportunity that we can study together.
I'm thankful to be here.
All right. So the topic we're going to talk about is let it happen, don't make it happen. Let it happen, don't make it happen. Now, before we can get into this, we have to give somewhat of a disclaimer from myself and Sam here. So we've been kind of looking at this for the past week every day, and so as we've kind of been studying this, we want to let you guys know that for myself and Sam's gonna say it for him too. We do not have this figured out. I am still very bad at trying to let things happen rather than me trying to make it happen. So we're not coming from a place of, we've got it figured out, or it's easy for us, or this is just what you need to do. I mean, we'll give you what the Bible says, but as we'll talk throughout the podcast, this is still something that is extremely, extremely difficult for me. And I know Sam, as we talked about it, you can attest to this too. It's pretty difficult.
No, and yeah, no, you're exactly right. It's we wanted to make sure that that we came out before we started that this is absolutely not something that we've mastered or perfected. And we're not coming from a standpoint of, okay, yeah, this is easy, this is what we're doing. No, no,
Yeah.
this is hard. And this is something we are currently trying to do. And it's definitely challenging, but hopefully with time it'll be something we're able to get better at. And so that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So again, and I think also this is able to help us because we're all kind of on the same playing field here. So we're all learning together and we're all growing together. But what we can do, as Isaiah mentions, we can open up the scripture and we can reason together to see what the Lord has to say. So that's what we're trying to do. All right. So let it happen. Don't make it happen. So a lot of times with anything in life, with literally, you can put anything in this box. It's so hard sometimes to wait, and it's also hard to not take action. So when it comes to, if you're looking for a job, or you're applying for a school, or you're looking to get into this relationship, or you're looking to do this or become this, sometimes, when you hear older counsel, or when you hear from the Bible or other things, hey, just let it happen. Don't try to make it happen. Especially as young folks, we can be like, well, what are you talking about? I have to do something. Like if I
Mhm.
don't do something, then it's not going to happen. So you're just saying just don't do anything. And so we're gonna try to look at a couple things here as we talk in this podcast today of how can we learn to let it happen rather than trying to make it happen. So number one, stop trying to figure it out. Okay. So the first step, again, like we said, you can see Sam and I
Mhm.
laughing here because we
Mhm.
know it's hard.
Yeah.
So instead of just making it happen. Here's how we can let it happen. Stop trying to figure it out. Just stop trying to figure out. This is again what we talked about. This is something that me personally, I'm very bad at, and it's gotten both of us into more trouble than we wanted because we tried to figure it out. And so I'm reminded of our first example here, Genesis chapter 12. And again, if you're new to the podcast, open up your Bibles with us and we can study this together. So Genesis chapter 12, and again, I'll pass this to you in a second, Sam. But as we introduce this, remember in Genesis 12 that God told Abram that he would make him a great nation, verse number 2. He would bless him, right? Verse number 3. And he also said that he would have a son, and that son would be named Isaac. But we also know the impossibility of the situation because of their age. And so, obviously, from Genesis chapter 12 all the way to Genesis 16, they're waiting, they're waiting, they're waiting, and they're waiting, and absolutely nothing happens. And so, Sam, let's get into this mindset. What does it feel like as you understand the promises of God? You understand He'll takes care of you. You understand that, but it's like you're just in this gray area space where you're just there. Try to kind of explain this mindset here.
Well, it's like you mentioned here, these two examples we're about to go to. Um, God promises it, but when it doesn't necessarily happen on our time or the way that we want it to happen, we start to say, well, okay, maybe I need to take this into my own hands. What's going on here? And so, like we see here with Abraham or Abram and Sarah, um, they tried to take matters into their own hands. They tried to do what they thought was best to bring about that child.
Mm.
And so we can we can try and figure it out. We can try and figure out the problem or the issue and try and solve it ourselves. And oftentimes, what happens, if not every time, we wind up making it worse. We wind up making things worse. But I, like you said, this is something that we're still working on. This is something we're still struggling with. And it can be easy to try and figure things out when things aren't necessarily going the way that you want or the way that you saw them going. But rather than figuring out kind of what we're going to go off of, kind of what we're going to talk about is, what's happening as you're trying to figure out that problem. Whether, like you said,
Mm.
it's a job, whether it's a school, whether it's a relationship or anything like that. What happens is you try and figure that thing out, or you try and understand what's going on. And what's happening to your focus as you're doing this. We're going to
Mm.
talk about Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom. What's happening is your focus is so fixed on whatever that is, job, school, whatever it might be. You're so focused on that you're missing other things that are going on. And it's just it just kind of boils down to really just a lack of trust in God, and not really not having your focus where it needs to be.
Yeah, and think about that example as you mentioned in Genesis 16, because they felt like they had to figure it out. Notice kind of they begin to almost start accusing God. Beginning in verse 2. And Sarai said unto Abram, behold, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. So think about that phrase, the Lord's restrained me. So obviously in chapter 12, like you said, God gave him a promise. This will happen. But because it didn't happen in the time frame that we want it to happen, well, I guess the Lord changed his mind. So let me try to figure this out. That right there, that right there will get us in so much trouble with it. Well, let me just try to figure it out. Let me just try to figure, and that's the space that we get in sometimes where, okay, well, the Lord's not helping me with this, so let me see what these people think about it, or let me see what these people think about it, or my best friends think about it, and then I'll try to get 15 opinions on what I need to do. And then we get into this space where what are we doing? We're more confused than we were at the beginning. And so I love how in verse 2, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. And then notice now she gives a solution. So now she says, I pray thee, go unto my handmaid. It might be that I may obtain children by her. Well, wait a second. God can't lie. And so if it might be, then that means I'm figuring out my solutions rather than trusting in the promises of God. How easy is it, Sam, to try to figure things out on your own rather than trusting God?
Oh, it's very easy to get into that mindset. Um, it's so like what we see here in this example. It's so easy to look at our circumstances around us, look at how things are going presently, and so get so caught up in that we try and okay, if I want this to happen, it's up to me to figure it
It's
out.
up
No,
to
no,
me.
no,
I got to do it.
no. That's the last thing we need to do. But that's a hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do because we're so focused on the here and now and what we can see. Um, when really, like we're going to get into in here in just a little bit. It's just as simple as having that Matthew 6:33 mindset of seeking first the kingdom and and trusting that God will take care of us. We talked about this a little bit last night. It gets so easy to put it all into our hands and to say it's up to me to figure it out.
Hmm.
Well, what we forget about is as a Christian, we have God as our Father, and God's going to take care of us. We have a God and Father in heaven who is able to speak a universe into existence, who is able to do far more than we know or understand. So whether it's a job, whether it's school, relationship, whatever it may be, um, you know why wouldn't we think God could help us there? And god
Yeah.
god loves us. He's going to take care of us. But so many times we can get into the mindset that it's up to me to figure this out, that I've got to figure this out. And really that's not the case. That's when we get into trouble.
Yes, and let's get into that mindset, right? That's a perfect segue here. So let's get into that mindset. I have to try to figure it out. As listeners, can you relate to that? Obviously, Sam and I can, 100%. But hopefully, you can relate to that too. Man, I have to figure it out. So as we were thinking about this mindset, Sam and I thought, well, what gets us there? What gets us to the mindset instead of trusting in the Lord and His process in Matthew 6:33? What makes us feel like we have to figure things out? And here's a couple reasons here, and maybe you can relate to this too. These are personal things that we came up with together. And so number one, I think we feel like we have to figure things out because of a fear of failure. Because of fear of failure. Now again, we can only speak for us. But again, for me personally, I always have this innate fear of failure, right? So sometimes for me, it takes me multiple times to get something right. And so, as Sam and I talked about this last night, we were just right here with this. It takes me a long time to get things right, but when we get it right, we finally get it right. But again, here's the fear. The fear of it is a lot of times we feel like because we get it wrong so many times, it's almost like we're afraid of, I don't know, I guess we're almost afraid of letting others down because we know we're going to fail. We're afraid to almost get close to other people because we know we're going to fail. We're afraid even with the Lord sometimes because we know we're going to fail. And so we don't want this, but if we just break it down simplistically, it almost feels like, again, like I said, we don't want this to happen, but it feels like it's easier just to kind of be by yourself and be alone in this corner because when you do fail, you're not going to let anybody down. When you do fail, you're not going to disappoint anybody. When you do fail, you just have to worry about yourself rather than disappointing someone else. And so a lot of times we cannot get into things. We cannot take this job. We cannot be with this person. We cannot get into a closer relationship with God because I'm so afraid that I'm going to fail. And so we have this kind of innate fear of failure. Sam, I know you can you can relate to that thought there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like we were talking about last week a little bit, with darkening counsel and with talking about evangelism. We can almost just kind of adding that to this, we can talk ourselves out of it sometimes before we even get to it. And no, you're exactly right. Uh, the fear of failure can absolutely make us try and figure things out. We get so worried about failing at something that we take it upon ourselves to figure it out. And again, that process is just is it's not going to benefit us. It's not going to do us any good. And it it makes everything so much worse. But again, as
Yeah.
we talked about in the disclaimer, it really is a hard, it's
It's
a hard thing
hard.
to do. It's hard. It's a really, really hard thing to do. And it's just, it's hard to get out of that mindset at times.
And
Yeah.
as we talk about this, because we fear failure, it almost it makes you it's it almost puts you in this stagnant state where you're always afraid to do something because you're
Mhm,
afraid to fail.
mhm,
And so we feel like we have to figure it out because I can't let this thing down. I can't let this job down. I can't let this person down. So you'll just stop doing it. You'll just kind of become
mhm,
stagnant. And then two, as we kind of go keep going, what else? Let's dig deep into this mindset of trying to figure it out. Well, number one, we might be just afraid to fail. And then number two, and this relates a little bit more to Sarai and Abram here in Genesis 16. Not only do we have a fear of failure, but two, we have a fear of losing something. So now not only am I afraid to fail this thing, but then I feel like I have to figure it out because if I don't make a move, if I don't make an action, if I don't do the exact right thing, that job, that opportunity, that person, they're going to leave because I didn't figure it out. And so many times, and this is why we have to be so careful because we can put undue pressure on other people to figure it out. So
mhm,
you need to hurry up. If you don't figure this out, I'm out. If you don't figure this out, this job opportunity is gone. If you don't figure this out, this money opportunity is gone. So think about where Sarai's at this time. God said you're going to have a son, Genesis 12. You'll have many nations, Genesis 12. But then all the way in Genesis 16, now her mindset is, well, the Lord has restrained me now. The Lord, it might be that you can have children with her. So what was Sarai really afraid of? She was afraid of losing the son that she couldn't have. And so we make actions based off of I feel like I'm going to it's a weirdest description and you might be able to relate to this. But when you have something in your grasp, and there's a certain feeling, and again, Sam, you can relate to this too. There's a certain feeling when you know something's about to slip, right? You know it's about to slip. And so you feel like, man, I have to do something. I have to say something. I have to take action because if I don't, that thing that I really it's gone. It's going to be gone. So Sam,
mhm.
kind of talk about that thing of the fear of losing something.
No, I mean, no, you're exactly right. I mean, you can get to a point to where, um, and like we talked about a little bit last night, it's kind of like a progression.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean,
It's
so
yes, yeah.
yeah, you fear of failure, and then fear of losing something. And so as you start to anticipate whatever that is you're going to lose, you start to grip tighter, and
Yeah.
you start to focus more on whatever that is. And that focusing more on whatever that is takes more of your focus off of where it needs to be, which is off, serving God. And as we were reading through that, it reminded me like we were talking about last night. The rich young ruler and Jesus.
Mm,
You know, that fear of losing something. The rich young ruler. Said, "Good master, what must I do?" And Jesus said, "Keep the commandments." And he said, "All of these I've kept from my youth. What lack I yet?" And Jesus said, "Go and sell what you have and give it to the poor, and then you'll have treasure in heaven." And we're told there, before he said that, Jesus looked at him and loved him and told him
mm.
what he needed. And the rich young ruler, what did he do? He went away sorrowful. He left. And so,
It's that feeling of lose. And again, you all can relate to this, and I loved how you described it just now by saying when you fear losing something, you almost innately hold it tighter. But maybe it's not. Again, we're going to mention, but maybe it's not meant for you to do that,
yeah.
right? Maybe you're doing way more than what you're supposed to be doing. That's why this phrase, let it happen, don't make it happen, that's why it's so hard to execute and live because you only see what's in front of you. You can't see what God sees. So it's
Mhm,
harder for us to let things happen when I have the opportunity right now to make it happen.
mhm,
So I mean, it's again, this balance thing. This is why in the disclaimer, we both said we still struggle with this to this day. It's difficult.
mhm,
So here's the natural question. So this all kind of stems under this big umbrella of stop trying to figure it out. We looked at some ways of that mindset of fear. So the natural question is, okay, so if I don't have to figure it out, how do I know when to act on something or when to wait? How do I how do I know when to act on something and when to wait? Here's the answer. And the answer is not what I want to give you. The answer is not really what I want to give myself. But you don't. You don't know sometimes the perfect time to act or the perfect thing to say or the right thing to do. You just sometimes you don't know. You do know sometimes, but sometimes it's not always there. So again, you brought up these two questions, Sam, and I want you to kind of go a little bit into these that you mentioned.
Mhm.
But here's two things that we can do when that question arises. How do I know when to act or when to wait? First thing is whatever I'm doing, will this align with the will of God? And then two, have I consulted God in prayer about this thing? So Sam, kind of explain and kind of break down these two things as we talk about, will it align with the will of God, or have I consulted God in prayer at all about this?
Well, and it all goes back to that Matthew 6:33 mindset.
Mm-mm.
Seeking first the kingdom. Whatever I'm going after, whatever I'm trying to hold on to, whatever I'm trying to obtain in my life. The first question to ask yourself is, how does that work out with, God's will in my life? How is that going to help me
Mm.
grow closer to God? Is that going to take me away from God? Examine yourself where you're at right now with whatever that may be, job, school, relationship. Is it taking my focus off of the Lord? Do I feel like I'm growing closer or farther away from him? And that right there can kind of help you answer that question of
Yes.
is this something that needs to be in my life or not? But that can be a really hard thing to do at
That can
times
be hard too.
because you're holding on to whatever it is, and you want to make it happen so bad that you almost don't want to admit to yourself, hey, this probably, I can kind of see where this is heading. It's not where I want it to head. It's not where I want it to go. But you know, sometimes we just have to have that. We have to seek first the kingdom. We have to just put our head down and go. And like we talked about, sometimes we're afraid to lose what we were never meant to have in the first place. And that's that
It's a
that can
hard
be a
truth,
dip.
man. It's
That it
hard.
is. It
It's
is.
so
It's a
hard.
hard
It's
truth.
so
It's
hard.
a hard truth. And it all comes down to, just having you know, just that it's a humbling mindset really of just
Yeah.
understanding at times, I don't know what's best for me. I sometimes I don't. I know what I want, but that's not necessarily what I need. And so, it's going to God in prayer on whatever that may be, giving it to Him, trusting Him, and seeking first the kingdom.
Mm,
Continuing to work, continuing to evangelize, continuing to visit, continuing to do what you need to be doing as a Christian, even though things may not be going the way you want.
yeah.
Uh, and stop trying to figure things out. And we're saying that again as people who are currently trying to do that because it is hard.
Oh,
It's hard. It's a daily struggle.
yeah.
It really is a daily struggle, and that makes me think of Luke 9:23. Um, because and it's a daily struggle, and not just in this area, just as a Christian, to deny yourself
Mm,
of things you may want, things you may want to go after. It's a daily struggle. And so Luke 9:23, let me get there. And so it says, and he was saying to them all, let anyone who wishes to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it.
mm,
And so there's a daily denial of self as a Christian. And so, we have to, we were talking about last night, that attitude of humility, of realizing that we don't know what's best, realizing that, the best thing we can do is seek first the kingdom and can consult God about, whatever it might be that we're going after. And we talked about it last week a little bit. We may not get those immediate answers that
right.
we want. We want the answers and we wanted them yesterday,
Yeah.
but that's not always the case. That's not always the case. Like we were talking about with Abram and Sarai. You know, time went by and Sarai said, the Lord's prevented me from bearing children. It's
Yep.
never going to happen.
That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
we can see in Scripture. Guess what? A little time it did happen.
Yeah.
In Romans 15:4, we're told that the things that are written before time are written for our learning, that by patience we may have
And
hope.
hope.
So fortunately, we can look back to the Old Testament and we can see examples like this, and we can see how they, like us, at times can say for certain things, oh, it's not happening, the way I want it to happen. It's not happening in a timely manner like I'd like it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But we just have to keep trusting. We have to keep seeking first the kingdom. We have to keep focusing where we need to have, because like we were talking about last night, guess what? Whether it be job, whether it be school, relationship, whatever it may be, you have all these question marks, all these
Yes.
things, all these unknowns.
Unknowns.
And guess what? Guess what? You're not always going to be able to figure it out. We're not always going to be able to figure it out, and we have to be okay with that. But one thing we do know is Matthew 6:33. If we keep seeking first the kingdom, guess what? Our God is going to take care of us because He
Mm,
does love us. He does care for us. Those things we think we have to do ourselves, give them
mm-mm.
to God. Pray about them. Keep seeking first the kingdom. We're going to get into it a little bit later. Are there actions involved that we have to do? Yes, there are.
Yes, there are.
We're not saying that hey, things are just going to come out. You're going to get it without doing anything. No, no, no. We're saying that if you seek first the kingdom, those opportunities will come at the right time. And so it's we put so much pressure on ourselves to figure things out, thinking it's up to us, that hey, if I don't do it, it's not going to happen. And
And
that.
I love that point because sometimes what we can do too is we can let other people put pressure on us
Yep.
because you're taking too long. You
Yep.
don't know. You can let others rush the process too, which we have to be careful. Again, that's where wisdom comes in, but we got to be
Yep.
careful. We have to be careful with that too. But again, talking about that second point, I love how you just talked about, you have to let the Lord know what's going on. So again, last night we talked about Philippians chapter 4, right?
Mm,
Verse 6. Be careful for nothing, but in everything, right? In everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. Again, and we talked about this a little bit too last night. I think sometimes we put God in this box and we put him in this box and we say, well, Lord, if it has to do with evangelism, I can pray about it. If it has to do about anything with the church, I can pray about it. If it has to do anything with visiting the widows, I can pray about it. But when it comes to like my personal stuff, in terms of my job, in terms of my struggles, in terms of relationships, that stuff's kind of like the Lord cares, but I don't know if he wants to hear about that right now. No, he said, if in every single thing, let your prayer and supplications be made known unto the Father. And so think about the persistent widow,
mhm,
right? The persistent widow went to that judge who the Bible describes was evil. And that persistent widow went day by day by day by day by day, asking for the same thing. And that judge that was evil gave to that persistent widow because she was so persistent. So God made the comparison. Well, if you're that persistent with me, who is a good judge, how much more will I do for you? Just look at what this evil judge did. He just did it because she was persistent. Look at what I can do for you. And so sometimes we can't put, and again, we've done this as well. We can't put God in this box saying, well, he doesn't really care about that, or he doesn't really want to hear about that right now. Because think about, we get annoyed with each other. So if I call Sam up every day and ask him the same thing, ask him to pray for the same thing about me every single day, at some point I would feel like, well, I'm annoying Sam, so I'm not going to call him. I'm annoying him. So, but that's not how God is. God wants to hear from you. So, I mean, you have to be so persistent in the way that
mm,
you pray. Because if we're not persistent, then we'll do just like what Sarai did in Genesis 16, and we'll pull back from God. And then since you're not doing anything, let me try to figure it out. It's a dangerous position to be in. So we got to be careful about that.
And as you were saying, we have to keep asking, and talk about how we feel like we could burden one another. Well, first off, it made me think, like last week we were talking about, because passages like Philippians 4 verse 6 are so comforting, because sometimes we do, like you said, we can put them in a box and say,
Yeah.
well, I can ask him for this and this and not that, but it says everything. And 1 Peter 5:7, casting all your cares on him. Why? Because he
Mm,
cares for you. you know he does love us and care for us more than we know or understand, and that's really that's the truth. And that, so going back to keep asking, it makes me think of Matthew 7, starting in verse 7. Ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and to the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. And so there's a continual action there. Keep asking, keep seeking,
yeah,
keep knocking, which of course we have to understand with things like this. We have to ask ourselves the question, am I seeking my will or his will?
right.
If we keep praying for like a red Corvette or something like that, I don't know, like something like that, that's not necessary. I
We know
mean,
what Sam wants now.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like a red Ferrari or something like that, but Corvette. And I was like, well, that just sounds better. You know, things like job and things like school, things like relationships, things like that. We keep asking, keep seeking, we keep knocking, all the uh, while still seeking first the kingdom the whole way. And again, we'll talk about this a little bit later. Something else we can fall into is, we need to make sure we're not seeking first the kingdom just for whatever it is we want.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need to make sure not to try and make God kind of like a genie.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna treat you this way or do this if
Or
you give me
people.
that.
Or people
Yeah, yeah,
the same way. We're
yeah.
gonna get we're gonna get to that.
You're gonna,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
good. Yeah, we're
yeah.
gonna get
And
to that.
one more thing, talking about praying for everything, and sometimes we can think, well, God, he wants, it has to do with the church or things like that. Um, and we don't think it's necessarily involves our personal lives and things like that. Well, it makes me think of Romans 8, um, starting in verse 32. It says, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? And so we see that, God has already given us the greatest gift that could ever be given, and that's Jesus. That's his son. Anything, I was thinking about this last night a little bit, anything we could ever, when we'll go into this a little bit later too, about being content with things, but anything we could ever hope to obtain in this life, whether it's new job, new house, school, this, that, relationship, anything we could ever hope to obtain will never compare to the gift we already have in
Mm,
Christ Jesus, the salvation we have in Christ. So we have to understand that first and foremost. Talking about being content with things, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but we have to understand, God's already given us the greatest gift of all, and that's Christ.
yep.
We have a hope of heaven. We have the forgiveness of our sins. And we need to make sure that as we're going after whatever it is we're going after, we need to make sure that we're seeking first the kingdom. And we need to make sure that we are counting our blessings. We need to make sure that hey, some of the things I've got now are those some things that at one time I was praying for. And so I know I'm
And
jumping
I
ahead. I'm
got it. No,
sorry.
that's good. Oh, that's good.
No,
Give him a teaser for the next couple.
yeah.
Okay, so real quick at the end of this first point here. So let it happen, don't make it happen. So we gotta stop trying to figure it out. Again, this is way easier said than done, but you have to stop trying to figure it out. Now, before we go to our next point here, here's the last thing we want to mention. In order to stop trying to figure it out, here's the mindset that we must learn to develop. You have to stop trying to force the outcome what you want it to be. I'm going to say that again. Again and again, we've done this you have to stop. I don't care how bad you want it. I mean, it almost takes a certain level of like maturity and self-control to stop trying to force the outcome that you want. So what we can do sometimes is we can get into this mode where we try to convince that we're good rather than just be what you need to be. So here's two things that you can't do. Number one, you cannot, as hard, I don't care how good of a person you are. I don't care if you're the best thing since sliced bread. You cannot, you cannot convince someone to change their mind. You can't. How do you know that? Glad you asked that question. So look at Luke 18.
Mhm.
Look at Luke 18. And again, Sam mentioned this before, but look, even our Lord did everything for somebody, and that he didn't change his mind. You cannot convince someone to change their mind. So again, Sam mentioned it before, but in Luke 18, obviously you had the rich ruler there, and he said, what do I need to do? Right? What do I need to do, master? And the Lord told him all these things that he needed to do. And so the ruler said, look, I've been keeping all these since my youth. And so Jesus, verse number 22 of Luke 18, when Jesus heard these things, he said, yet you lack one thing. Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Come and follow me. And when he heard this, he was sorrowful, for he was rich. And when Jesus saw that he was very sorrowful, how hardly shall they that have riches enter into the kingdom of God? And there's one text, it might be Mark's account, where it
Mhm.
says that Jesus looked at him and Jesus loved him. So notice the actions that Jesus did for this man. Jesus loved him with all of his heart. Jesus told him the right thing to do, and Jesus gave him a path to go on. But even though you give the right stuff out, you can't make someone change their mind to accept it. They denied Jesus. They're going to deny you. I don't care how great of a person you are. They're going to deny you too. So we have to stop trying to convince other people to change their mind. We can be a good influence. We can give them the right answers like Jesus did, but stop trying to change people's minds. We can't, right? Then number 2, and this goes right along with Luke 18, you can't convince someone to choose you. You can't. So you got to stop today. Today you got to stop. Because what this is going to cause I mean just you're going to try to figure every little thing out. But what you got to do, you cannot, again, doesn't matter what type of person you are, it doesn't matter. You cannot convince somebody to choose you. Think about the options, Sam. Think about the options Jesus gave this man. I love you. I love you more than anything else. 2, I'm giving you the answer that you want. And 3, so stop living that life and just come follow me. Come and have a better life with me. And he chose and he said no to Jesus, man. No, I don't know. Dude, you have to be, I don't, I'm not going to say you have to be okay, but you have to keep this in perspective. If people can walk away from God, people are going to walk away from you. And you just got to be, you have to realize that. And so you can't spend your life trying to convince someone to change their mind. You can't spend your life trying to convince someone to choose you, because that's a very dangerous mindset that we can find ourselves in. So we have to continuously be very careful with that, especially as we're learning to grow. So if we do these things, what will happen is we can try to figure things out rather than letting the Lord um, help us um, through certain situations. So we have to continuously be very careful um, with this mindset as we continue to study and as we continue to grow together. So that's why we got to be really careful with trying to convince other people, um, basically trying to convince them of things that we can't do that. So you're obviously putting way more stress on yourself than what you need to. Right. So maybe that's as you're listening, maybe that's been you. You got to stop. You got to stop, man. And that's one thing that um as I've been studying and even been talking with Sam, that's one thing I'm just going to stop. I'm just going to why am I wasting I don't want to say that. I don't want to sound like that, but I don't want to just there's energy that I could be using to better myself and to help other people. Why spend so much time just trying to convince? Because again, in Luke 18, Jesus, after the rich ruler walked away, Jesus didn't go running after him, right? Jesus didn't stop. Hey, wait a second. Let me change my mind so you can stay, or let me say what you want to hear so you can stay. No, sometimes, I mean, you have to be okay with people walking away for whatever reason they feel they must do what they have to do. And
Mhm.
and don't you think, and again, we talked about this a little bit last night, Sam, don't you think it hurt when that man walked away from Jesus? Because the text
Oh,
says Jesus looked at him and loved him,
mhm.
and
Oh, absolutely.
he said, "No, I don't want you." No.
Yep. Yep.
Man.
I mean, absolutely, because it's already, um, it's already hard to sometimes, love people like we were talking about last night. As far as like trying to share the gospel with them.
Mm.
Maybe it's a family member or someone like that, and you're trying to share the gospel with them, and it's already hard sometimes to try and do that because you're like, well, what if this happens or that? It kind of goes into that idea last week, but so you do it, you share it with them, you tell them what they need to do, you tell them everything, and then they don't want to have anything to do with you. They turn away and walk away from you.
Yep.
Absolutely, I'm sure it was hard, and I'm sure it hurt. And we talked a little bit about this last night, but just Jesus's mindset the whole time he was here on earth. Luke 2:49 is one that it really makes me think of. Where Jesus is young, he's in the temple, and his parents lose him, and so they go back and they're looking for him, and they come back and find him in the temple, and they're upset. And Jesus says in Luke 2:49, he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" And in some translations, I actually like this better. It says, "Or did you not know I must be about my Father's business?"
Mm.
And that's an example of Jesus. His whole life here on earth, he was focused on his Father's business. He was focused on God the Father and him, and focused on doing his will. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed three
Mm.
times. Nevertheless, he wanted, did he want that cup to pass from him? He said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." And so sometimes we have um, to just back away from whatever it is we're going after. If it's not working out, if someone's not wanting to be in our life, we can't make that person stay. Because think about it, if you sit there and you work and work and work and make that person stay, how long will they be there? You're having to continue to convince that person to stay.
And
You
right, like
know,
you said, even if they do stay, it's a
yeah,
constant convincing of why they need to
yes,
stay.
yeah,
It's too much
exactly. It,
work.
it is, it is. It's too much work, and also it's not healthy for either one, either for
Yeah.
either party. And we talked about this a little bit last night. You know, when you and this kind of goes into trying figuring things out as well, but this goes into this too. When you're trying to do things like this, you talked about how much energy you're putting into it. Think about the ripple effect it has on other relationships in your life. Most importantly, your relationship serving God.
Yeah.
You're so focused on convincing that person, on trying to figure out this situation with this job or this school or this life change, etc. You're so focused on that, uh, you start drifting away. You start losing your focus on where you need to have it. Matthew 14:30.
Yeah.
Again, Peter
There it
walking on
is.
water with Jesus, he starts looking at everything else and he starts to sink. It's so easy to have our focus pulled away and to have it on other things. When
Yes.
again, Matthew 6:33, it sounds so simple, and it is simple.
It
It
is.
sounds so simple. Well, okay, it's simple. It's a simple concept, but it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It is that simple. Seek first the kingdom.
And
But
that
it
line's perfect. That's perfect. And that lines perfectly with what we're moving into. And we're gonna hit a lot of Matthew 6 in a second. So
mhm,
the first one, guys, so let it happen. Don't make it happen. So number one, in order to do that, stop trying to figure things out. Stop. Just we gotta stop. We gotta stop trying to figure things out. Okay. Then number two, let it happen. Don't make it happen. This goes perfect with our segue for point two. And before we get into point two, remember, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to anchor.fm/ when the scriptures become real / support, and then you can support the podcast there. And we've already got 3 supporters, so we're thankful for that. And we're thankful for their contribution to the podcast. So two, so let it happen, don't make it happen. Two, you got to stop trying to impress. Just be who you're supposed to be. Stop trying to impress. Just be who you're supposed to be. So let's look at this. Let's look at Genesis 24. And Sam, what we're going to do, we're just going to kind of walk through, and we talked about this a lot, the last couple the last couple of days as
mhm.
well. What in Genesis 24. you got Abram, and you got Abram, and you have Isaac's servant, or basically Abram's servant. And so what Abram does, he sends his servant to go find a wife um, for Isaac. And so as he sends them, notice the setting. So beginning in verse 13, behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of men of the city come out to draw water. Stop right there. So in verse 13, remember, even in Exodus, remember when Moses, um, when he was in Midian, how before he met his wife, they were all the daughters of men were around the well. So keep that in mind too. So now, verse 13, the servant sees all these daughters of men of the city, and all of them came to draw water by that well. Verse 14, he said, and let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I say, let down your pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink, she will say, drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. Um, let the same be she that has appointed for thy servant Isaac. Thereby I shall know that thou hast showed kindness unto my master. So now, before he even talked to this group of girls that were over there, he said, before I go over there, I want to make sure that she is who she's supposed to be. So she'll provide water, not just for me, but also for the camels as well. So then notice verse 15. And it came to pass that before he got done speaking, Rebecca came out. So again, let's stop right there. Think about the setting. Think about the setting is you got a drove of camels, and you've got Isaac's servant coming to this well of water. And so all these daughters are by the well of water. The question becomes, if they see Isaac's servant coming and understanding that a traveler needs water and the camels need water, how come the other daughters didn't do anything? It's an interesting concept, isn't it? But then Rebecca comes out, and Rebecca goes up, verse 16, 17, and 18. Rebecca goes, and she goes to give him something to drink, and she gives his camel something to drink. And so think about this concept. So many times, what we are in this situation, guys and girls, what we are, we're the daughters and we're the sons of men, and we just stay at the well. So what we do is we just kind of parade ourselves, and we just sit at the well, and we just wait for people to pick us. Oh man, look at Sam over there looking like Captain America. Where's the shield at? Where's the jet at? Right? Looking like Captain America over there. So I'm waiting on him to do something for me. So I'm just gonna sit here and just chill out and wait till he sees me. Well, wait a second. Where's the servitude at? Think about the phrases we've heard all of our lives. We'll just go where they are. Or what about this one? Well, you got to put yourself out there. Is that true? You know what I'm saying? Is that, think about it. Is that true? Do we really have to do that? But notice what Rebecca teaches us. Instead of just being where everybody else is, why don't we just be who we're supposed to be?
Mm.
If we're being who we're supposed to be, I don't have to put myself out there. I don't have to go where they are. The Lord will provide. Well, I know we talked about this, but
Oh
what
yeah.
do you think
Yep.
about it as we keep going, dude?
Proverbs 18:22. Is
Yes.
that what yes.
Yeah.
So which, you know, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, it's it's you're exactly right. I mean, we've talked about this, like you said, we've been studying over this for about a week now. But it goes against everything. You're told to, put yourself out there. You're told to do this, do that. But think about it. You put so much focus and effort into it. Where is your focus not?
Yes.
It's not in the one place where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so seek first the kingdom, and again, it sounds so simple, and it is simple, but well, simple concept, but again, hard to do at times. But you know again, we'll go to Proverbs 18:22, and we can kind of work through that a little bit. And but if we're doing what we need to be doing, if we are seeking first the kingdom, everything else will work out. It'll work out the way it needs to. And that's the best part. It'll work out the way it needs to, not the way you or me want it to. Because oftentimes what needs to happen is better than what we want
Yeah.
to. When we try and take things into our own hands, that usually doesn't work out for the good. It usually tends to make things a little more confusing.
Yes. Okay. So let's go there really quick. So let's go to Proverbs 18:22. This is why this is so special, because we have to, instead of trying to impress, just be who we're supposed to be. Right? We just have to be who we're supposed to be. So let's go to Proverbs 18:22. And let me get my concordance out here because we need to look at this word. So in Proverbs 18:22, notice what the Proverbs writer mentions about this. So he says, "Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord." Okay. So whosoever finds a wife finds a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Now, the the words are very important as we study this verse. It's very, very important as we look at this. So the word obtain. So think about this. Everybody that you know, and again, we're not trying to down the advice that other people have given, but we're ultimately just trying to give the advice that God has given. So, and we've heard this growing up all of our lives too. Well, just go where they are, or just put yourself out there. We've heard this from good people. So we're not trying to down it, but we're trying to bring out what God wants here. So whosoever finds a, and let's just put wife and husband there because it really applies to both. So whosoever finds a wife or a husband finds a good thing and obtains favor of the Lord. You know that word obtain there in the text? It means to furnish. So think about this for a second. You don't furnish something that's not already built. Let me say that again. You don't furnish something that's not already built. So if I've got a couch, a lamp, and a TV, why would I just put that out in the street? People think it's for sale. But when you think about it, when we stop trying to impress and convince other people and we just be who we're supposed to be, the Lord, who as you build the foundation with him, he will furnish you with someone because you've already built something. See, so many times we wait for people to help build with us. And again, we are to grow together, and we're going to mention that. But again, we have a responsibility. So in order for the Lord to furnish you, have you built a foundation with Christ on your own? Because it'll make it, whenever you furnish a house that's already built, even if the house is empty, it makes the house 10 times more beautiful because it's furnished and it's beautiful now and it's built. So notice what the Lord is saying. Whoso finds a wife or a husband finds a good thing, and the Lord who has favor on that man will furnish it. It's so, dude, it's like it goes against
Well,
every single
it
thing
does.
we've heard.
It does. And you mentioned also when we were talking on the phone, you also mentioned that word finds, how it's actually it's
Mm,
appear. Is that right? It
yes.
actually means appear.
Yeah, the word find
Uh,
means to appear.
yeah.
So why are we out here trying to do all this stuff and be all,
And
it appears.
it's interesting because it's we go to Matthew 6:33 again because it's so simple. But think about it. you know, if we're seeking first the kingdom, if we're like we all should be, that should be first, seek first the kingdom, not to gain anything, not to get anything, but to serve Christ, to become a better Christian,
Mm,
to be the person you need to be for whoever it is you're going to meet, so you're seeking first the kingdom. Why why would God not provide and help us with everything we need?
why would he not?
Why would he not? He's a loving God and Father who cares for us really more than we know or understand. Ephesians 3:20, he's able to do far more than we know or understand. And why wouldn't he, care for us? Which it's it's it's
It's
I mean it's
oh, it's
yeah, I
just
know. Yeah.
so okay. So I want to say this to our listeners because this is something that both of us, as we study together, this is something that almost through the scripture that we've learned. We've been taught this, but we've kind of learned it almost late too. But as you move forward, just continue to do Matthew 6:33, because if we don't do that, what we can find ourselves doing is, and again, like we mentioned before, it doesn't have to be just one thing. So, I mean, it can be with a job, it can be with school, it can be with relationships, whatever it is. What we can find ourselves doing is, if we're just trying to impress that job, if we're just trying to impress to get more money or impress whoever, what we can do is we can literally spend our entire lives trying to convince ourselves and to convince other people or other things that I deserve to be here. Instead of trying to convince, let's just focus our energy on being the people that we need to be. Because think about, so let's be real for a second to our listeners. So all this time, you've been trying to convince other people that, hey, I deserve to be in your life. Hey, you know, you could be good for this. Hey, you could be good for that. How's that worked out for you? You're obviously listening to this podcast. So it's probably not working out, hasn't worked out the best for you. And think about all the energy, and you feel drained, don't you? Because it's draining to constantly convince yourself and constantly spend time trying to convince that you're good enough. So instead of being like those daughters at the well and those men at the well, just be like Rebecca and do what you're supposed to do. Because if all those other servants would have been doing their job, they could have had a great guy in Isaac. But because they were waiting for somebody to do everything for them at the well, and instead of doing what they're supposed to do, they missed out on an opportunity. And so, that's another point too. When we don't do what we're supposed to do and we spend time trying to convince and impress, we will always miss out on an opportunity. Did Rebecca know that this was Abraham's son or Abraham's servant? No, but she did the right thing. And so next thing you know, if you keep reading that text in Genesis 24, then Isaac's servant gives her gold, gives her earrings. She's like, wait, what is it? What is this? By the way, I'm Abram's servant, and he's got a son. It just worked again. Proverbs 18. It appeared because the Lord was furnishing it. I mean, it's literally that simple, but we make it so hard, ourselves
we
included. We
we
make it
we do.
so hard,
We
bro.
do. You try and literally, like the first point, you try and figure everything out and again complicate everything. When really you're not, sometimes, like we said, you're not going to figure it all out sometimes.
Yeah,
But one thing you do know, and that you can always go back to every time, Matthew 6:33, seek first the
every
kingdom,
time.
seek first the kingdom. We know that. We know that. If we order our life, and if our life is guided by the word, by scripture, we know that we know we're going to go in the right direction. We know we're going to, that's not saying we won't go through hard times. That's not saying things will always wind up like we want it to happen. No, but
Right.
things will always wind up the way we need it to happen. Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. We know those things. So rather than trying to figure out the things we don't know, we need to come back to the things we do know, put
Yes.
our focus there, and we give our problems to the one who does know, the one who
Ooh.
doesn't have to figure it out because he knows everything.
Yeah.
He knows our beginning and our end. We see present moment, and we get so caught up in, like Sarah and Abram, they could see what was in front of them. And
Mm.
they said, based off of what's going on right now, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. All the while, God was like, keep going, keep going. Come on. God can see the beginning and the end. We forget about that.
Yeah.
A lot of times we try and figure things out again because which I know that was the first point, but a lot of times we try and figure things out because, again, we think it's on our shoulders, and we lose focus and sight of how powerful God is,
Mm.
how much God has and can do. And again, we have to remember all the things that God's already done for us. And so, like, again, Job, last week, we talked about Job 38,
Yes.
who's this that darkens counsel. When Job was questioning God, this, that, and the other, God had to remind Job, hey, where were you when I did this? You know, Sometimes we have to be reminded of how great God is, how
Yeah.
much he's done. And that'll make us, it humbles us. For one, it says, okay, you know, I'm going to be okay.
That's right.
If I keep seeking first the kingdom, I'm going to be all right.
That's right. And that's
And
what we got to do. That's what we got. And it's so easy. And again, we've done it too. It's so easy to lose sight of that. It's 100% easy to lose sight of that.
Mhm.
So the question becomes, how can we learn to do this? Right? How can we learn to do this? Number one, you talked about a little bit before, Sam, but learn to be
Mhm.
content where we are. I mean, contentment, godliness with contentment
Content.
is great gain. I'm telling you, it really is. It godliness with contentment is great gain. So learn to be content where we are. Two, Colossians chapter 3. Focus on those things that are above. And that goes directly, I mean, it goes hand in hand with Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. And
Mhm.
then as we look at those things, just continue to live out Matthew 6:33. Now, here's a point that I wanted you to talk about for a second too, Sam, is as we live that, as we try to really do Matthew 6:33, we have to have the right motivation behind it. If we try to do Matthew 6:33 for other reasons, it's not going to work. So talk about that right motivation for Matthew chapter 6.
No, I mean, no, you're exactly right. And it's like we talked about a little bit earlier. If we are seeking first the kingdom in order to gain something, it's not going to work.
It's not gonna work.
It's not going to work at all, because you don't seek first the kingdom in order to gain anything. Well, in order to gain like something that you want, like a job or things like that. Because 6, 8 months down the road, if you're seeking first the kingdom and you don't have it, you're going to stop.
Yep.
You're going to give up. No, you seek first the kingdom because you have the right perspective. You seek first the kingdom with the right things in mind. Um, so you realize you realize who you are, you realize where you're headed, and you realize ultimately, what you realize what your purpose is.
Mm,
So you seek first the kingdom, realizing you're a Christian, realizing how blessed, what a blessing it is to be a Christian. All spiritual blessings are in Christ, Ephesians 1:3. Realizing what your purpose in, Ephesians 2:10, for those good works. Ecclesiastes 12:13, to we're here to fear God and keep his commandments. This is the whole of man. We realize why we're here, and ultimately we realize we have a wonderful home in heaven.
mm,
You know, and so we seek God. You know, we seek first the kingdom. You know, again, just realizing who we are as a Christian, and what our purpose is, and realizing that if we do seek first the kingdom, God's going to take care of us.
yep.
We don't know when that whatever it is may happen. We don't know how it'll happen, but we trust and know that God's going to take care of us. And so we don't have to know everything. We don't have to figure everything out, because
Mm.
we know God's going to take care of us.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to. Again, I love that example about Rebecca in Genesis 24.
Mhm.
She didn't do it because, well, this is a new guy coming in. She didn't do it because, oh, well, he has a bunch of camels. She did it because that was her job. That's what she did. And so think about Matthew
Mhm.
6:33. That's our job. That's who we are. And so it shouldn't be a number one, it shouldn't be a burden to do it. And then two, we shouldn't do it and use it as a tool.
Mhm.
That's not right either. Because again, like you said, you won't be able to maintain that. Because you might get what you
Mhm.
want in the moment, but long term, if you're not doing it for the right motivation, Matthew 6:33, you won't be able to, maintain doing it because you were never doing it for the right reasons in the first place.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because we're talking about seek first the kingdom, and you mentioned earlier 1 Timothy 6:6, godliness with contentment is great gain. Verse 5, and it says, in constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and deprived of the truth, imagining
Mm,
that godliness is a means of gain.
yep. Nope.
And
That's not
so,
what it is.
no, and so, you know, that idea of contentment, it makes me think again of let's see, Paul in Philippians,
Mm,
where he said, let's see, beginning in about verse 11, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. The key word there is learn.
learned.
You have to learn to be content. It's
Yes.
not something that just happens overnight. It's not something you're just born with. You have to learn to be content. Sometimes we sing the song count your blessings. We can get so caught up in what we don't have that we miss all the blessings we do have.
Right.
We get so focused on, hey, I'd really like this, I want this. And that's the wrong attitude to have. We need to focus on what we do have. And Paul says, I know how to be brought low and I know how to abound in any and every circumstance. I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so, we have to learn to be content with what we already have.
Yes.
And so,
And again, all of this is kind of going together to get out of this mindset, right? So let it happen. Don't make it happen. So in order to do that, number one, let's stop trying to figure it out, right? I mean, Sam and I have almost had to make this personal commitment to just restart, to just kind of restart, because it's so easy to get in this snowball of trying to make things happen or trying to figure it out or trying to do the exact perfect thing. So you got to stop trying to figure it out. Two, we got to stop trying to impress and just be who we're supposed to be. The Lord called us to just seek first the kingdom. So just do my job. Just do my job. That's all I can do. Right? I'm a Patriots fan, so it means a lot to me to say that. Just do your job. I mean, everybody says it, but it's harder to do it. Just do your job. All right. And then number three, how else can we let it happen and not make it happen? Stop looking at the circumstances of others. Stop looking at the circumstances of others. You got to stop. This is an intervention. Okay, you got to stop. You have to stop looking at the circumstances of others, because what comparison does, comparison is the thief of joy. So what it does, it takes away little by little, and it doesn't. And the thing about comparison, it doesn't take it away instantly. It takes it away little by little, and it takes away that contentment. And the more and more you compare, the more and more your contentment of what you already have and how far the Lord has brought you, it almost turns into a mist. It just gets out the way. So we got to be careful with that. So what happens when we compare? Number one, and again, you brought up this example of Cain and Abel last night. So what happens when we compare? The first thing we can do is when we compare, we can start doing things out of revenge or really out of spite. Oh, wait a second. They got that now. I can get that now too. Oh, they did it this way. I'll do it that way too. Right? Think about Cain. He didn't offer the right type of sacrifice, and because he was angry, killed his brother. Sometimes that's what we do to even to our own brethren. Sometimes we do things out of spite, just so we can. Well, let me get back at him. Let me get back at her. No, we can't. We got to be careful with that. We have to be careful about that. Then two, this is the big one we're going to go to. What happens when we compare is we rush the process. Look at 1 Samuel chapter 8. This is crazy. We looked at this for I don't know how long. I don't know how long last night. But 1 Samuel 8. So sometimes what we can do, we call this kind of the social media effect, right? You go and you kind of see what's going on with everything and everyone else, right? So notice what Israel wanted here. 1 Samuel chapter 8, beginning in verse 5. And said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like everybody else, like all the other nations. That little phrase right there. Sometimes that's how we talk to God. Notice this is how they talked to Samuel. He said, Samuel, you're old. Disrespectful, right? Samuel, you're old. Then it was true his sons weren't walking in his ways, but notice what they said. Make us. That's what we can do with God sometimes, is we can talk to God. Well, Lord, I'm getting old. Lord, I'm getting old. Lord, things aren't happening. Lord, my work is not working. So, Lord, make me like Sam. Give me what he has. Give me what they have so I can be like everybody else. But the ironic thing about it is from verses 10 through 18, and we're not going to read that for sake of time, but Samuel warned them, if you get a king, this is exactly what he's going to do. He'll take this. He'll take your sons. He'll take your daughters. He'll take a tenth of this. He'll take a tenth of that. He'll take your maidservants. He'll take your manservants. He'll take your sheep. And what you're going to do is verse 18, you're going to cry out in that day because the king that you chose then the Lord's not going to hear you. This is why we got to be very careful about rushing the process. Because again, and I want you to talk about this for a quick second, Sam. Sometimes what the Lord will do is because we want to be like everybody else, he will give it to us. He'll warn us. He'll tell us exactly what's going to happen. But he said, you want it, you can take it. So sometimes we got to be careful with wanting things like everybody else because it might not be the right time for you yet. So what do you think as we kind of walk through that in First Samuel 8, bro?
Well, it made me think about last night. We were also talking about, this idea, and if we knew what God knew, would we still be going after some of the things we're going after and praying for some of the things we're praying for?
Mm,
Like maybe that job isn't lining up the way you want. Maybe the school's not working out. Maybe relationships not working out. Maybe whatever it may be. Maybe it's not working out the way you want, and you're just so desperately trying to figure out why. Well, maybe if we knew what God knew, we wouldn't be praying for that. Or, we have to remember that God's all knowing. God has the best in mind for us. God's gonna take care of us.
mm.
And so if it's not working out, you know, maybe it's not gonna work out, or maybe it's not gonna work out now. We don't have to figure it out, but what we can do is Matthew 6:33. We can, again, coming back to that, we can
Yeah,
do what we know we need to be doing. And so, yeah, I mean, right here, he says, make us or give us a king like all the other nations.
yep,
That's a thing. We can look at other people and look at other things, and that could cause us to want something that beforehand was not even something we desired. But we
right.
see, hey, all these people have it. Now that's something I want. How can I go out and get that? And so at that point, what you're essentially kind of trying to do is you're seeking after your own will.
Hmm.
The process is being rushed based off of what you're seeing others do. And so, it's an easy thing to do, though. At times it's an easy thing to do.
And here's that final point here. When we compare, when we compare, someone else always gets hurt. 100%. Someone else always gets hurt. So think about the nation of Israel here. They said, "We want to be like everybody else." So first of all, did everybody else have God? No. Everybody else had a king. Everybody else didn't have God. So again, in that point, yes, something else might have this, but they might not have what you have. So again, perspective means a lot here. But here's what we talk about: someone else always gets hurt because of our immaturity, because of the things that we do sometimes. Well, I want this right now, so I want it now, right? So you get it, or you might not even get it, but you start going for it. Then when you go for it, well, no, I think I'm good. Well, wait a second. So you said you wanted a king, but then you realize what he actually did, so now you don't want him anymore. You see, again, like you said, every choice that we make, it always has a ripple effect to somebody else. So for something else, it's so easy to just, all right, cool, I'm good. But what about the effect on this other person? It's kind of like the deflating basketball, right? It's deflated, and sometimes it takes a while for it to get back up. So, I mean, we have to be careful when we talk about comparison. And because we can get so focused on, well, I want this now. But then after, well, I might not want it now, but I'm good. We're just like Israel. I mean, and again, that wasn't fair to God. So think about again, as Hosea mentions, Israel was in a relationship with God. So Israel said, "Well, no, God, we don't want you now." Well, actually, they said, "No, we do want you." But then we want a king. Okay, I'll give it to you. Oh well, no, I don't want the king, so we want you back. So think about how hard it was, and that's why I love Hosea. Hosea said, "Now I understand. I understand what it's like to love like you do. It's hard." So we have to be careful when we talk about comparison. So here's our last example I want to look at. John 21.
Mm.
John 21. This is Jesus's answer to comparison right here. And I've never looked at this way until Sam brought it up, and it blew my mind. John 21. So remember, Jesus appears to the disciples by the sea. And so remember, he challenged Peter, verses 15 through 18. Well, really 15 through 17. But he challenged Peter, if you love me, or do you love me, feed my sheep. Lovest thou me? Feed my sheep. Lovest thou me? Feed my sheep. So he's giving Peter something to do. Peter, you focus on this. Okay? You focus on feeding my sheep. But then notice the question that Peter asked, beginning verse 20. Then Peter, he turned around and he saw that the disciple Jesus loved following, which also leaned on his breast at supper and said, Lord, which is he that betrays thee? Now watch verse 21. Peter, seeing him, he said to Jesus, Lord, what shall this man do? Then verse 22, Jesus said unto him, if I will that he tarry with me, what is that to you? So think about the comparison when we compare with other people. You know what Jesus would tell you right now? What is that to you? You know what I mean? Like it's literally that simple. Well, Lord, they're already talking to a new person. They're already in a new relationship. That's great for them. You celebrate for them. What is that to you though? Well,
And then
Lord,
what is,
I'm
yeah,
getting
and then
older. What is that
and
to you?
and then what does he say? After that, what is that to you? He says, "You
You
follow me.
right there.
You follow
That's
me."
it.
Well,
That
hey,
is it.
they've got this.
What's that
All
to
these
you?
people, this, that, yeah.
What's
You
that to you?
follow me. Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom. All of these things going on around. What's that to you? You follow me.
That's his answer. That would be Jesus's answer to you today. Well, Lord, all this is happening. Well, Lord, everything is working. That's great. Rejoice
Hmm.
with them that rejoice. Let them do
Hmm.
whatever they want to do. Let them be with
Hmm.
whoever they want to be with. Let that job take whoever they want to. What's that to you? You stay right here. You and
Hmm.
me. You follow
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
Now, again, Sam and I mentioned this is hard. We
Hmm.
both struggle
Yes.
with this today
Yes.
because all of us, Jesus gave us commands. So he'll give us commands like he did with Peter. But sometimes we'll be like Peter and look around. Well, Lord, what about that guy? What about that person? What are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with them? What is that to you? You stay right here. You follow me. That's
Hmm.
that's the that's the
That's
tunnel vision
that's it.
that Jesus
That's
wants
it.
us to have, man. That's
That's
right
it.
there,
That's
man.
it. That's it. And again, going back to Matthew 14:30, when Peter had his eyes, tunnel vision on Jesus, he was fine. But he starts looking at other things. You start looking at other things, other concerns that are going on around you. And that's when we get in trouble.
Mm.
And that's it. It's you follow me. It's okay. It's when you're in that in between, that kind of gray area state of trying to figure things out.
Right.
Stop trying to figure things out. And that's
Stop.
hard. That's
Yeah.
hard. Work on your relationship to Christ. Work on serving him. Work on being a better person. Work on being a better Christian. Work on your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to figure everything out, because I try and figure every single thing out.
It does. Yeah.
I
It
try
doesn't
and
work,
figure
guys.
every, yeah.
It
No,
doesn't
it
work,
does not.
guys. It does not
Not at
work.
all. Not at all. And so, it's what you do is you take inventory of what you've already got, because I guarantee you some of the things you already have, or some of the things you prayed for in the past. You take inventory of what you've got, and you're thankful and content for what you've already got. As a Christian, you realize how blessed you are, and that you have a hope in heaven, that you have a God and Father who loves you, loves us all more than we know or understand. We
Mm.
focus on Christ, and that he, in Hebrews, this is so comforting and encouraging. He's able to sympathize with us in every way, because he was tempted as we are, yet without sin. So those times where you're going through something, you're in something, and you say, man, nobody gets it, nobody understands. That's not the case.
It's not.
No, because God knows us better than we knows ourselves. And when we know ourselves, our very hairs are numbered.
Mm.
Jesus was a human, was
Mm.
God in the flesh. So he understands, he gets it. And we have the Holy Spirit within us, who is able to intercede for us with groanings too deep for us. So we're covered.
Yeah.
We're
We're covered.
blessed. we're blessed. So those things we're focused on. Hey, I want this. I want this now. I want that now. Seek first the kingdom. Matthew 6:33. Realize what all we've got.
Oh, dude.
You know, focus on those things above. You know, I was thinking about that this morning. You know, in Matthew 6:19 through 21, it talks about laying up for yourself treasures in heaven. Because verse 21, why do we do that? Because where your treasure is,
There your heart.
that's where your heart will be.
Mm,
And you know, the Bible talks about the heart, it's the mind.
yeah.
There, for where your treasure is, that's where your mind will be. Colossians 3:1 through 4. Focus on those things above. Because if our mind is focused on those things above, everything else will work out.
Yep.
Everything else will be okay. It's when we start focusing on the things here and going after things here.
That's right.
You know, the Christian is preparing themselves here for the hereafter.
Mm,
You know, there's so much more to after this, but we get so focused on what's going on here that we lose that perspective. You
that's
know,
right.
we want what's best for us now, and not what's best for us in the long run.
That's right.
And so, but again, that this is all so much easier to say than it is to
Yes,
be. You
we
know,
still, I mean, it's hard.
yeah,
We struggle with it
it's hard.
today.
It is. It's hard.
But I just love I don't know, I just love the focus that Jesus tries to get
Yeah.
Peter. Obviously, with John, he loved John, 100%. But he said, look, what is that to you? I love that. That's the perfect answer. Look, what does John have to do with you? You keep following me. And I'm reminded of what Hebrews chapter 12, right? We looked at this a little bit too.
Yeah.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2,
Mhm.
looking unto Jesus, the
Mhm.
author and the finisher of our faith, right? Who for the joy was set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame, and now he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. But watch this, verse 3. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be weary and faint in your mind. So the times that we're not focusing on him, but we're focusing on what the Lord is doing for everybody else, when we focus on so much on what the Lord is doing for everybody else, yes, he tells us, rejoice with them that rejoice, weep with them that weep, but don't focus on what's going on. What you need to do is focus on me. It's me and you. That's what it is. I mean, he's trying to get us just right here to
That's
where
it.
it's kind of like that horse with the blinders on. I can't see
Yep.
anything else. It's
Yep.
me and you
That's
until
it.
something else comes. It's just me and you.
That's exactly
That's
right.
what it is. And
That's
again,
exactly right.
that's hard.
Well,
Okay,
and
it's hard.
you brought up Hebrews 12, and I'm glad you did because it makes me think of, right before that, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. How? Looking to Jesus. And Hebrews 11, we see so many different examples. So for one example, starting in verse 8, by faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called out to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. We've talked about trying to figure everything out. Did Abraham know where he was going?
No,
Yeah.
didn't know.
But what was his mindset? Not knowing where he was going. By faith, he went to live in a land of promises in a foreign land, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to
Mm,
the city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. And there's examples of that all in Hebrews 11. They were looking for a better country. How did, Moses, it talks about he choosing rather to be mistreated with the people in verse 25, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt. How? He was looking to the reward.
mm.
And so it's all, of
It's what we
looking,
look at. It's what we
yeah,
look at.
it's what we look at,
It's what we look at.
and that makes me think of Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is,
So yeah, so is he.
yeah.
And what we want to tell you guys is, as we kind of wrap this up together, we want to tell you kind of the reality of this at times. Because when you do Matthew 6:33, right? When you do Hebrews 2, all these things, Hebrews 11 that we talked about. I love how you mentioned, in order to follow Christ, it's a daily thing. Matthew 6:33 is going to be, his commands aren't grievous, right? God's commands are not grievous, but sometimes we can make it grievous. So, I mean, there's going to be days where you're going to follow Matthew 6:33 and you're still not going to understand anything. You're going to follow Matthew 6:33, and you're going to have to kind of walk this journey by yourself for a little bit. You're going to do Matthew 6:33, and you're not going to understand. You're going to be like Peter, and you're going to look at all the Johns in the world and say, well, Lord, you love them. What are you going to do with them? The Lord's going to have to get you right back on focus again. And so think about, as we look at this is why we have to continuously remind each other, look, let's seek first the kingdom, and let's do what the Lord wants us to do. And so as you talked about, and I wanted to mention this too, Sam, before we close, when we talk about this, we're never talking about this from a state of perfection, because Sam and I mean, every single point that we mentioned today, we both said, yep, we failed. Yep, we failed. Yep, I mean, we just haven't got it, to be honest.
Yep.
I mean, we just haven't got it. But what Sam and I are doing, we're using this and we're growing together. So we realize we haven't got it. Now, okay, let's get better. So imagine, it's always about growing with people. That's what it is. I mean, we have to just grow with people. And as we learn to grow together, it's not a comparison. It's not a, we're trying to help each other get to heaven. That's it. That's
Yep.
it. And
That's it.
so, I mean, sometimes, again, like you said, we have to humble ourselves and realize, look, I need help.
That's
I
it.
can't I can't do this, but I don't know.
Eh,
I
You
don't
and
know.
it takes that humbling mind. It takes that attitude of humility to say, I don't know everything. I don't know what's best for me. We talked about Jeremiah 10:23. It's not in man who walks to guide his steps. It's understanding that I'm going to take this to someone who does know. I'm going to take it to God. I'm going to
Mm,
pray about it. I'm going to think on it, and I'm going to serve Him all the while, trusting in Him that He's got my best in mind for me. It made me think of Job 13:15. Job, perfect example. You teach a Job class.
yeah.
He's a perfect example of someone who did not know what was going on. But verse 13:15, he said, "Though He slay me,
Hmm,
yet I will hope in Him." You know, and so that's he doesn't understand what's going on, but he says, I will hope in him regardless.
right.
Sometimes you just have to have that attitude of, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to figure it out,
That's right.
but I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to stop trying to figure it out. I'm going to seek first the kingdom, and I'm going to trust in him, knowing that he's going to take care of me. And
Mm,
we have to be okay not understanding sometimes.
that's right. And as we close, here's what we need to just, I've kind of made this almost kind of pledge to myself as we studied, and as we've looked at this together. But let it happen. Don't make it happen. So today, right? If you're listening today, stop trying to figure it out. I mean, it's just gotta stop today, right? I mean, you can't understand why things happen. You can't read between the lines of everything. You can't try to rationalize everything, or get reasons why. Just stop. We have to stop today. It's done. It's done. You got to stop trying to figure it out. You got to stop trying to force the outcome that you want. Right? You just got to, again, just continue to do what the Lord wants you to do. 2, stop trying to impress and just be who you're supposed to be. Right? I mean, it's so much work on your own to be who you need to be. So instead of trying to impress, just do what you're supposed to do. Right? Also a big one as well. Today, stop just we have to stop trying to convince people of anything, right? Because it takes so much effort, and you have to maintain that. So we got to stop trying to convince. And then number 3, we got to stop looking at the circumstances of others. I mean, Jesus said it perfect in John 21. What's that to you? You just follow me. Sometimes we need that straight direction. And so here's the beautiful thing about all this. If this has been us, imagine you have 2 friends like me and you. You have 2 people in a relationship, or getting into one, and say, "Man, let's work on this together. Let's just work. Let's stop trying to impress. Let's stop trying to convince. Let's stop trying to figure it out. Let's stop listening what everybody else has to say about it. Let's do this together." That's what we're talking about. And when we can get to a point like that with friends, with relationships, and with God, you'll start to see that things don't have to be as hard as we make it. they really don't have to be that hard. It's just a matter of being humble and having some communication with God and with your friends and with other people. Hey, let's do this. Let's work together. We're not perfect, but we're gonna do this. So as we look at that, I hope that that was able to kind of encourage you, because I find myself on the side of trying to make things happen lately, rather than being the type of guy that I need to be, and just focusing on. Not saying that you should just, obviously there's balance in everything, but obviously keeping the main thing the main thing, right?
That's
Keeping
exactly
the
right.
main thing the main thing.
That's exactly right.
And so I'm, gonna do better at that. Instead of trying to make things happen or convincing things, I'm just gonna stop.
Yep.
100%. I'm done. I'm gonna stop trying to do that and just focus on, what's in front of me and what I need to do.
And
So Sam, what do you have as we look at this, man?
that's exactly right. I'm the same way. I'll say the exact same thing here lately. I have been had a bad habit of trying to make things happen rather than let things happen. I have found myself just being impatient, trying to, do the things that I think are best for me, which that's not the right way to go about it. And so I'm going to try and stop trying to figure everything out myself. And I'm just going to do what I know to do, and that's seek first the kingdom.
Yep.
That's, with anyone listening, to myself, to Jordan, to anyone, and I'm telling this to myself. I told Jordan, we talked before we started, everything we've said in this podcast, we're saying right to
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes.
But to anyone who is going through this, who's, wondering, okay, what do I do? This would be the best possible, this is start here, because this is what I'm trying to do. Work on developing your relationship with the one who loves you more than anyone or anything ever could.
That's right.
Work on developing your relationship with him, and whatever problems you have, give it to him. Work on that first relationship. And I guarantee, I don't know what it might be you're worried about, struggling with, what it might be that you're trying to figure out. Work on that first. Everything else, I can't promise that it's going to work out the way you want,
Right.
but it'll work out the way you need.
That's right.
And so, yeah.
Perfect way to end it. Perfect way to end it. So, I mean, I hope this is able to help you guys. I mean, it has helped us tremendously. I mean, we've talked. I mean, man, I've been a fool lately. I mean, just
Yep.
why am I doing all? You know what I mean? There's so much to improve on, and I hope this is able to help you guys, as it's 100% helped us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's all about getting better, and it's all about growing our faith. So, we thank you guys so much for listening. Sam, thanks for being on again. This
Thank you for
probably won't
having
be
me.
the last time. Probably
Yeah,
won't be the
yeah,
last
yeah.
time. But I'm thankful that he's been able to be on, and always appreciate what he does, and as he continues to grow and continue to learn and develop as he goes to preaching school. So,
And very thankful for you and what you do as well. I know before me and you became friends, this podcast helped me out a lot, and I really enjoy it. So thankful for everything you do. And to anyone who's listening and, is struggling with this or struggling with anything, feel free to reach out.
yes.
I don't have a social media, but, reach out to Jordan. We'll help,
Yeah.
we'll help in any way that we can. And, to anyone who maybe is not a Christian and maybe wants to know more about kind of how to become a Christian, things like that. We'd love to help you. We'd love to study with you, talk with you about it. If there's any way we can help, love to, because we're right there in it with you. We don't have everything figured out, and I'm in no means going to act like I do. Me and Jordan joke around, and we say we don't know Jack. That's
So true.
the longer I go, the more I realize that, apart from God's word, I don't know anything.
Nope.
Apart from God's revealed word, I don't know anything. And so, it's a humbling place to be. It's a good place to be, but it's the more you try to figure things out on your own, the more you realize you don't know that much.
That's right.
But yeah, any way we can help anyone out there, we're happy to do it.
Yes, for sure. And again, like you said, reach out to me on social media, and I'm sure we can get into a phone call or whatever it is. So it won't be a problem. Just reach out to me. It's never a problem. So we're thankful that you guys are here again. Lord willing, we will be back with another podcast on Monday. If not, there might be a pop-up one later, but we'll see. But Lord willing, we will be back Monday, and we will see you guys then. Thanks, guys.